This is Smartworks Bengaluru, the world's largest flex space campus. Smartworks is India's largest managed workspace platform with a presence in 13 cities, 40 plus centers, and a growing footprint of over 8 million square feet, catering to over 550 clients, primarily Forbes 2000, MNCs, domestic enterprise, unicorns, etc. Smartworks has not just redefined the flex space segment but has expanded its offerings beyond just office spaces. They are now leading the charge in providing PropTech solutions, cutting-edge design as a service, and much more. Hello and welcome to a special show, The Workplace Discoveries. We're in Smartworks Bengaluru, which is the world's largest flex space campus. Joining me in a conversation are two young, dynamic men who have transformed their startup into a torchbearer of innovation and versatility. Mr. Neetish Sarda, who is the founder of Smartworks, and Mr. Binani, co-founder Smartworks. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us on NDTV. I would like to start with you here, Neetish. But just tell us if you could take us through the journey from being a co-working space to India's largest managed workspace platform.
Well, people like to think of this as a journey. For us, it was a roller coaster. We started off with co-working, which is the small format of taking up a floor in a building, giving it out for retail clients. But from there to move into taking up a space like this, which has over 18,000 people sitting out of that entire building, our focus was always towards enterprise, and we wanted to Indianize, how people look at co-working in India. And we realized that you have to create a product which is acceptable to the masses, which is valued at a certain price point, which is acceptable to the masses, and which can be scaled up across the country. And India is a very diverse country. We started off with one city, started off with Gurgaon, but when we went to cities like Bombay, Pune, we saw it was a completely different world. And every city had its own way of doing business and treating their employees, and you needed to adapt to all of those things. We've been lucky that we pivoted very quickly from co-working to managed office, and then eventually to a large campus-like format.
Harsh, if I come to you, I would have to read this here because there are several unique firsts for Smartworks in the world's largest office market. So I'm going to be reading them because I couldn't have read so many of them offhand. You all have entered the 1000 CR club, right? You've raised very little funding, which is $25 million in 2019, and scaled it to be the #1 player with highest footprint. You accounted for 10% of India's overall CRE leasing, became profitable earlier other than Indian and global players, are being named also as a future unicorn, ranked as one of the high growth companies in APAC as well. Harsh, tell us, what is the secret behind this?
Obviously, in building this institution, it's taken a lot of passion and hunger, which we hope we've percolated down to every smart worker who works, and together we as a family have scaled up the business to what it is. But if I were to just break this down into 4 or 5 key principles which have kept us in the stead, and they're in some ways evergreen. A, we've always wanted to solve a very tough problem and stick to the first order. So when we were trying to create this new category, moving away from co-working to what is now managed workspaces, it required a lot of design thinking because you were creating something which wasn't existing in the market, fundamentally getting large enterprises to come to what it is. And there you need to keep looking for inspiration from a lot of other industries per se. And second, quite frankly, while this is a new age business, the old principle of creating value for all the stakeholders and making sure that you are actually delivering profits and cash flows has kept us in very good stead. Because frankly, when you focus on profitability, then it gives you a superpower, which we feel today is an even more relevant superpower, that you don't have to depend on external capital, which is why you see that we've not been able to dilute as much, largely because it was a choice that we made.
Would you like to add anything to what Harsh said?
So the model that we have created is very thought of, something that can be scaled, and our vision is not a 4-5 year vision.
Like our
vision is a much longer 15 to 20 year vision, which in the long run we think we try to insulate the business from any downturn.
Neetish, just talking about the office spaces, right? Smartworks has 3 of the world's largest flex spaces in its portfolio, and we are together here sitting in Bengaluru. What was your strategy behind leasing these huge independent spaces? What were you really thinking?
No, so for us, when we were thinking about providing a managed office and our campus setups, we weren't thinking of just providing workstations and tables.
Sure.
You know, that can be replicated by anyone.
Yeah.
We were trying to cater to the aspiration of the new age employees. You know, the new age, millennials have exposure to a lot of social media, to the Western culture.
Yeah.
We've seen how offices in the West have, created a more engaged platform where people are not just coming to work to just be on the table for 8 hours or 10 hours in a day. It's more of a social environment where you're interacting with other people, you're creating your social friends, and it's an experience. It's overall an office experience that we were trying to create. So we never restricted ourselves to tables and chairs. What campuses really allowed us to do, when we started with campuses by the end of COVID in 2020 end, we started with our first large campus, and what really helped us go through the entire process was the fact that we could provide so many amenities because of the sheer scale of the business. So if you look at this building, you've gotten things like a cricket pitch, you've got a futsal court, you've got multiple food courts, there's a gym, there's a creche, there is an amphitheater, there is a auditorium. There are multiple things which is required in your office space, right? And it is being shared by 28 to 30 different companies in the building. When you're able to provide all of these experience to these large enterprises over and above the space which they are utilizing just for their office space, it gives a significant value add to their business, and not to just them, but even their aspirational workforce. For them, all of these amenities are something which have not been accessible had someone like us not come and given them the size of amenities. If you look at the cafeteria here, we serve lunch, dinner for over 10,000 people. So for us, our focus is always towards office experience, and we think the larger format help us create better experience for our enterprises, and that's why most of our growth is now happening towards the large format.
Harsh, you are the largest enterprise share in managed space at around 90%, which includes Forbes 2000, the Fortune 500 companies as well. What are the factors that drive the growth of managed space adoption by enterprises, and how have these requirements, we were talking about before the pandemic, how have they changed or how have they evolved since the COVID-19 pandemic?
The enterprise's choice for us was a very careful, thought-through decision in our early days when we were making the pivot away from co-working to the managed workspaces format, because the biggest draw of having enterprises was the fact that they give you a lot of predictable cash flows, they stay with you for long tenures, and frankly, they are the biggest users of space. And as we've seen the enterprise behavior evolve, particularly in a post-pandemic environment, obviously the expectation of an enterprise now has increased manifold because the workplace dynamics have evolved also meaningfully. And what was essentially a choice of, let's say, an enterprise earlier now becomes increasingly a choice of the enterprise and their employees as well. Because frankly, work from home has been an entire new dynamic which has come into fold after COVID. And the fact that you are able to package so many amenities within the campus and keep them happy, engaged throughout the day obviously makes it an entire proposition which is very compelling, both to the enterprise as well as their employees. But having said all of that, the Indian mantra of still making sure that you give all of this, yet make it more value price so that end up becoming cheaper remains consistent, because we as Indians are very, very value and price conscious. So if you're not really playing by the Indian rules, then quite frankly, you cannot scale up the way we've done over the last few years.
Before we go on to the break, Neetish, one question for you is in terms of demand. Do you think that there is enough demand for managed spaces, and does the market have an appetite for over 300 players?
I think the demand, India's market is going to grow, right? We are the office of the world now, and I think over the next couple of years, your billion square foot of space in India, which is currently what our size is, will go up to about 1.2 billion.
Wow.
That means 200 million square foot of new space coming up. It is more demand which is coming into the market, right? And I think everyone will survive in this market. I don't think it's going to be a winner take it all. But having said that, there's going to be differentiators, right? There are going to be players who are going to focus on co-working. Then there are going to be players like us who are focusing more on the managed office solution. For us, we don't think as co-working as competition. I think our target is to go after the traditional office space to see how much of the traditional office space can we penetrate, because most of the clients that are with Smartworks are also not co-working clients. They are mostly people who have shifted their corporate headquarters or regional headquarters into our offices. So these are clients who would have either gone to a traditional office space and chose to come to a specialized office environment like ourselves instead of going and making their own offices.
I think that's really put well. So on that note, we're going to be taking a really short break, and this conversation will continue post that. Keep watching. How do you ensure your business stays innovative and adaptable to changing trends as well as your clients' demands, because you're dealing with so many clients today?
Work from home, so many new concepts have emerged in the workplace dynamics which weren't there earlier at all. And from that perspective, particularly getting a lot of enterprises to get their employees to come back to work, which is no longer the same workplace as it used to be prior to COVID. Here you need a lot of technology to make the entire workspace contactless, ensuring that a lot of services that you were earlier dispensing physically is done in a tech-enabled manner, making sure that you are engaged throughout the office hours through more engagement activities fundamentally has altered what you expect from workplace. And going forward, we do expect that any large occupier will start to think very figuratively about, do I even need my own office? If I do, there has to be a reason. If not, can I actually really think about a flex way of office?
Flex way of working, which works for, I think, everybody at this point. Like you were telling us about the whole concept, like how about workspace. Neetish, if I can ask you this, that yes, Smartworks has not only redefined this entire segment of flex workspace segment, but it's also offered a lot more. So if you can tell us a little bit about providing the prop tech solutions, cutting the edge, design as a service, tell us what else does it entail?
So for us, the workspace has to be on top of the workspace. There needs to be a tech layer that we are trying to create to make the entire experience completely seamless. Right from the point that a customer is entering into the building, can there be a smart solution for you to allow you entry into the building? Is there a smart solution that can help you park on a spot which is available and allocated to you? After that, when you come up to your floor, if you're using one of our facilities like the gym or the showers, you can book it, pre-book it in advance and see what the occupancy at that point of time is. After that, when you're at your workstation, a lot of companies are now choosing to have flexi workstations, in which you can just come and book the workstation where you want to sit instead of having dedicated desks. Can we use a layer of technology to make sure that people have the ability to do that? After that, during lunch, can you pre-book your lunch right from your table so that you don't have to wait in the queue when you go down? Enabling technology to make sure that the entire experience is completely seamless is something that we are really focusing on. We have the ability of doing that because, again, we're managing these large spaces, yeah, right, where the numbers allow us to do it very well. But I think technology becomes very important when you're scaling a business at a certain rate, because you're growing by almost 3 to 4 million a year. You can't just do it without technology. You need to have technology in all aspects. And that's why one of our focus is also creating our design as a service platform, right, where people can actually come and choose out of a plethora of options that we give them up front. It is from a design library that we have created internally. Wow, yeah. We have over 60 designers on our payroll who continuously work on creating new designs for our customers, right? So how can we utilize a technology layer to make sure that people are taking informed decision and seeing what are the options available to them? And that's why design as a service, a layer of technology to automate the entire office experience. And on top of that, we also have a thing which is basically called our client Spock portal, which is our interaction medium with our customers. How can you interact with your customers on an online medium as well? In which if they have any challenges in their offices, they can just raise a ticket. You can actually see the utilization of your spaces in different parts of the country, because we also have a lot of customers who are not just restricted to a center, but who have a portfolio spread across multiple cities within Smartworks. There are customers who have 6 offices in 6 different cities.
So they have it in all your different...
In one portal, they can actually see what is the occupancy of different cities, how many people of their people are coming on a regular basis, what are the amenities that their employees are using, and what are the value-added services that we can offer on a B2B model, whether it's internet, whether it's stationery, whether it's some of their value-added costs or HR costs of doing town halls and all of those other events, can we take care of a lot of their day-to-day hassles? And that all can be only done with the layer of technology.
And I vividly remember during COVID when we had to actually go back and redraw our strategy. And today we are very humble that we have more than 550 plus best companies of the world sitting with us, which honestly when we started was more of a pipe dream. And given the fact that now we are 8 million square foot spread across 13 cities, gives us a fair amount of satisfaction. But the aspect which obviously, you know, as young entrepreneurs keeps driving us, what next? What else can you do? The journey of Smartworks at that point of time was obviously bundling a lot of services together and delivering it seamlessly through technology and using that layer to grow us faster. Now, as we are pointing out the new services that we've added to our portfolio, whether it's our phygital commerce business of essentially making sure right from food, grocery, laundry, which employees of the companies who sit with us can consume, to the design as a service concept. All of this is literally unbundling a lot of services that we had bundled together and start to externalize and monetize that. And that makes us very, very excited as entrepreneurs to create something new and ensure that there is an opportunity that comes out of anything that you've done.
Nitish, if I can just ask you, like it's a personal question, you belong, I mean your family has been doing business and you belong to a very good business family. But when we talk about business, when there are of course highs and lows in everyone's life, but business is something when there are lows, you tend to doubt yourself. So tell us, were there any moments of self-doubt through this journey?
I won't call it as self-doubts. Obviously, we are fairly young, with companies also only been there for 5 to 6 years. I think there were multiple times at which we had to reinvent on what we were thinking. How was our focus on growth going to be? What is the positioning in the market or in front of our customers, how we would want to portray ourselves, and what should the model compile of, right? We started off literally like everyone else in a co-working model, but very quickly realized that that's a very crowded space and you need to pivot away from that. And then we make sure that we de-risk the business as much as possible. Obviously, there is a risk-reward ratio in every business, but you want to make sure that the business is insulated to any downturns that comes. And honestly, COVID was a great example for us.
And Harsh, for you, like, are there any learnings, or if you look back, do you think you would have done something differently what you did at that point during the initial years while you all were setting up this entire concept?
Well, both of us can almost author a book on that because there were so many learnings we had in our early days when we had to make that final pivot, when you had this aha moment. I finally found my product market fit. Manage workspaces for enterprises is what we want to do. But a few key learnings I would call out perhaps would be, make it everyone's problem. Earlier, we obviously were brainstorming a lot of ideas between us, but the moment you externalize and make it open to everyone in the company, and our company is fairly led by youth, because when you're trying to create a new category, you're looking for fresh ideas, you're not looking for incremental ideas.
Absolutely.
Earlier, we were perhaps relying a lot more on experience, which truly is valuable and it's coming to fore today. But when you're trying to create something new, then no idea is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. And secondly, keep looking for inspiration. And that inspiration does not always have to come from inside, it can be from outside as well.
Yeah, so this one's for both of you, the last question. What is the long-term vision for your company? Of course, we've spoken about, how you all have reached there, what you all are looking for, but if you talk about the vision, and how do you plan to sustain growth as well as leadership in the future? So I'll go with you first.
Obviously, India as an opportunity is very big for us to focus on this right now, but eventually our personal ambitions is also to obviously take this global as and when we can, right? Because there is an opportunity for us to replicate what we've done hopefully well here so far in multiple other cities, like-minded cities, especially in the Southeast Asian region, or maybe some of the more developed cities also can adapt to a model like this.
All the best for that, and hopefully we'll be talking about that very soon. Coming to you, Harsh, what would your take be?
Absolutely, both of us are big believers in the India story, and the next decade truly belongs to the country and the market leadership which we've been able to create in such a short period of time. We want to capitalize and sustain that growth. However, the bigger ambition is the fact that today we have only touched 100,000 lives. Can we in 5 years touch 500,000 lives, make them more happy and productive? Because at the end of the day, you are creating a more happy, productive India in form of a workforce. And as we tune our global ambitions, a great product such as this, which is by the way made India the largest flex space market in the world, We are 10 times smaller than US in terms of just the RE footprint. Yet India is a bigger market. In absolute terms, we are doing more leasing than even US. Can you create an Indian services brand which can be exported globally and create that entire unit where you're profitable, able to scale up, where globally players have not been able to do it at scale? And that truly will make this a great, fulfilling story for us.
Happiness at Workspace, and I think it's so interesting to see young people like you coming and thinking of, like future thinking for something like this. Wishing you both all the very best, and thank you so much for speaking with NDTV.
Thank you for the opportunity.